Welcome to the Care Forward Innovations podcast, hosted by Bernadette Viñas and proudly sponsored by Care Forward AI, where we create AI-driven solutions to elevate healthcare. In this podcast, we share fresh ideas, inspiring stories, and practical strategies that are improving senior care, senior services, and assisted living. Join us as we highlight what's making a real difference in quality of care and operational efficiency across the industry. We're glad you're here.
Today, I'm really excited to welcome Chris Brown, the Executive Director of Abbey Senior Health in Missouri. Chris has spent his career in senior care leading teams across the full continuum of services with a deep commitment to dignity, compassion, and community for older adults and their families. At Abbey, he helps guide a mission-driven organization known for its personalized, faith-based approach to care and for navigating the real day-to-day challenges of senior living with both heart and operational rigor. Chris brings a grounded, thoughtful perspective on leadership and what modern aging should truly look like, and I'm thrilled to have him join us today. Hi, Chris.
Oh, good to be here. Thank you.
Welcome to our podcast. It's great to have you here. I've been really looking forward to having our conversation. So how are you doing today?
I'm doing good. Looking forward to the holidays and some of the hustle and bustle that comes with that. Not so much, but I do enjoy the holidays. So looking forward to that.
Yeah, same here. It's really fun usually. So I'm fortunate to have that kind of experience. So
good.
So for listeners who may not know Abbey Senior Health, how do you describe what makes Abbey unique in the senior care landscape?
Well, I think Abbey's unique in a couple of ways. One is, primarily the fact that we have all the continuums of care, right? So we have independent living, we have assisted living, and we have skilled nursing. And so you see a lot of kind of one-off assisted living, facilities, or you see one-off skilled nursing facilities. You don't always see them tied to an independent living community. And so really that's our model. It's the idea of being able to bring people into the most or the least restrictive kind of level of care and then progress them through the model as their needs increase over time. So, really it becomes an issue of elderly people who live in a retirement community where they have access to socialization and good food and, someone to manage their medications, live longer, live more productive lives, happier lives, and with less dementia than those that are isolated and at home by themselves. That's kind of counterintuitive. Most people want to, I'm going to live and die in the house that I've been in for the last, 30 years or 40 years, whatever that may be. And, I might even feel that way right now at age 65, but, down the road when there's more care needs and less options for family and things within the community to be able to support the retirement communities are really a great and viable option and has helped a lot of people.
So what originally drew you into the senior care and what's kept you in it over the years?
That's a great question. I take it back to my childhood days when my grandparents grew up in a small town in Missouri. And a very small town in Missouri, a small Missouri town, 1,500 people. And it was full of elderly folks. And, we were related to a lot of people and we'd go to visit them in their street and I'd spend my time with them. And then I'd go outside and I'd go visit, a great aunt and uncle next door. And I'd visit then a friend of theirs across the street and then a friend down the street. And I started to feel comfortable with elderly people as a very young, 5-6-year-old. And I was a late life baby. My parents were older. And so I was always around older people. And so it's just a niche. I felt comfortable with them. And developed a need to do more for seniors. Came from a ministry background. Preaching ministry was not for me. I was more administrative, and this kind of meld for caring for seniors and having administrative and entrepreneurial skills kind of all came together in the senior care business for me. So I've been doing this for a little over 35 years.
That's a good long time. Yeah, I totally can understand. I have a very soft heart. I love my grandma. I just wish that I had more time with her, but yeah, she was in Canada when I was still in the Philippines at that time, so didn't get to spend as much time. So how has your role as executive director evolved as the needs of residents and families have changed over time?
Yeah, I would say that the biggest, my role has changed kind of from, being that administrator that was, involved in every department and, I worked in the laundry room. I worked in the housekeeping department. I worked in dietary. I worked in the accounting side of it. I worked in all of that in trying to really understand it and learn it, and kind of then growing, from just an administrator of a nursing home to then running retirement communities, and then really having the entrepreneurial desire to get into ownership at some point in time. And so did that, and I was partners with with a couple of other people in a facility near here. And then this facility came up for sale, and we bought that, and eventually I ended up buying out my partners, and so that I could do some things that I really had wanted to do within regards to senior care, and help to really kind of broaden the base, where it's not just focused on the financial piece, but also on the care piece, and letting the financials part come in behind that. So a lot of times you're focused on the financial, and you need to be focused on the financial. That's an important piece. But sometimes if you do the right thing by people and you deliver care and you focus on the resident, then the financial piece kind of takes care of itself. So really that's kind of, I've gone from, running, nursing homes, large nursing homes, to then running smaller retirement communities, larger retirement communities, and then finally getting into the business of owning a retirement community. So that's kind of my evolution, if you will.
So your community is one big connected community of the different levels of care, right?
Correct. Yes.
How large is the community?
So it's not large. We have 64 independent living apartments, and of which I don't own the apartments, the 60 apartments. I own 4 of them, but I manage a building for a not-for-profit group. It's a combination of both market rate and low income. And then we have 10 assisted living beds, private rooms. And then we have 55 skilled nursing beds. 35 of those are private rooms. And there we do a lot of rehab. We do Medicare and managed care rehabilitation. So we run about, amazingly, about 25 to 30 admissions a month in our 55 beds. And so we're turning those beds over within a month. People, stay here an average of 2 to 3 weeks, and they're gone. So we're running about, anywhere between 18 to 20 of those 55 beds are rehab related, short-term rehab related beds. And then sometimes those people decide, I really can't, I can't go home. I need another level of care. And so that's where either our independent or our assisted or our skilled beds come into play, and they become long-term members of our community then.
Is there typically a waiting list for any of your communities?
We have a long waiting list for our assisted living. We also have a waiting list periodically for the skilled nursing. Out of those 55 beds, we run 53 to 55 census most of the time. And and the assisted living is always full. So it's just a matter of, yes, we have a waiting list, and then kind of managing that list. Just because you have a long waiting list doesn't mean that there's a lot of people waiting to get in. Sometimes they've found other options by the time you go and you contact them for, admission. But yeah, we do a lot of admissions on any given month.
I see. So what do the residents and the families expect today that feels different from about 5 or 10 years ago, or has it really changed much?
I mean, I think there's some things that have changed in terms of what I would consider minor things. I think the same things do exist. People expect good care, right? They expect to be well taken care of. They expect to be heard and to be listened to. And they expect to be treated like individuals, like people. That hasn't changed. They also want good food, right? So they want to eat good food, and it's hard to sometimes please everybody. You try to do the best you can and try to have a menu that appeals to a wide variety of people. We do a lot of comfort food here, and so we love food's a big piece of what we do. We do happy hours and a lot of things like that to promote people coming in. You start to give away free drinks, and people show up for those events, and amazingly. And so, it really becomes a matter of doing the right thing by people, centering on what people want and what they need. And so that those things don't really change. The things that change, over time are, just some of the things like, IT kind of things, they want to have access to, the cable TV, and they want to have access to internet, and they want to have access to, those kinds of things. But it really hasn't. And I think sometimes people have a faulty expectation. They come in and think that, mom or dad or grandma and grandpa are here, and they should never fall when they're in long-term care, right? That's, that the issue is, we can't keep people from falling. They will fall and continue to fall. But I think that, we need to do everything we can do to minimize those kinds of things. So sometimes people have wrong expectations about what will occur in long-term care, but we're doing everything we can try to do to keep people safe. But that doesn't mean that things don't occur in a facility, and you try to help set expectations from the get-go. Those aren't excuses. It's just the reality of people are going to try to get out of bed when they shouldn't and not use their call button. And how are you going to deal with that? So the other thing that's changed too is just, I think we've become more and more highly regulated. And it seems to be more adversarial. I mean, I don't feel that way here necessarily in Missouri right now. I think that we have some very good regulators that come in and do our surveys, but they're very pressed to find things that are wrong. And we're always willing to learn and make changes, but it becomes an issue of, I think, there's the high level of regulation sometimes is frustrating when you're trying to do the right thing for people. And sometimes trying to be person-centered doesn't always meet a regulator's need. So you run into those types of situations. But if that bothers you, you're in the wrong business. So you got to deal with that.
So speaking of delivering truly person-centered care, what does that look like in your practice?
Yeah, so it really centers on getting to know who that person is, right? You can walk down a hallway and glance into rooms and you see, older ladies and older gentlemen with walkers and wheelchairs and glasses and gray heads. But really those people are, there's teachers and there's lawyers and there's college presidents and there's policemen and firemen and aerospace engineers. I mean, it's amazing the people that come through this building. And if you sit and you talk to them and find out about what they've done with their life, some of it's top secret. They really can't tell you, but it's one of those things. So I had a gentleman in here who worked a lot with, and some of the, through McDonnell Douglas and now Boeing, with some of the aerospace stuff with NASA. And it's just like, if I told you what I know, I'd have to kill you kind of situation. But you have to get to know people and get to know what they like and what they don't like and what they want and need, and know that they're real people, and have conversations with them about that, and know what, the caregivers need to understand that about them. And so we've really made a larger emphasis on that over the last probably 18 months. And that's been primarily within the nursing department and our dietary department and our activities department to try to really focus in. We're not there yet. We're still working through that whole process, but we have become more resident centered and focused than facility and institution focused. It's really more about the people and their family and getting to know them and that. So I think that's the real key, is treating people like people and honoring them. Like you said, we're a faith-based organization. And so, that means, for me, that everyone's made in the image of Christ, right? We reflect God's workmanship. And so because of that, we have value. Everyone has value. And it doesn't matter what country they're from, what color their skin are, and even what religion they are. They are valuable in God's eyes, and we need to treat them and love on them and be real with them as people. And when you do that, and when you find, the key to that is finding people who are willing to do that, right? Staff that are willing to treat people that way. Once you do that, then it becomes very easy. It's like taking care of family, right?
Yes, that's so important, especially, with the different cultures that now reside in the United States. It's very important.
Yeah.
And I can truly appreciate that. So you mentioned that you have different multiple levels of care. What do you think about the continuity in their transitions for residents? I mean, is it hard for them, or?
You mean, moving from one level of care to another?
Correct. Yes.
Yeah. I think that the hardest level is moving from independent living to, let's say, assisted living. I think that's what we find is, and
that
this
first stage, right? I mean, that's basically the first
stage, right?
Yeah. Okay.
Right. If they're in an independent living apartment, they're used to the community and the food we provide and the staff that we have for activities and socialization and those kinds of things. But I think, people feel like, well, if I make that next step, then, I'll have less independence. What they do primarily is wait too long, and sometimes they miss a level of care. I'm dealing with someone right now who should have been in assisted living 6 or 9 months ago, and a family member that I have, and that kept putting it off and putting it off and putting it off, and really struggling now to be able to. What we've got to do is bypass the assisted living and go straight to skilled. And that's a shame. I mean, I wish I really could have let them have that experience, and then they might have been able to stay in that experience. But people put it off too long. I think that's the biggest problem. And once they make the change, that's the real thing about it, Bernie, is that once they make the change, they're like, I don't know why I waited so long, right? This is great. I love this place. But I guess it's just something we are as humans, right? We're always wanting to maintain our privacy and maintain our level of independence for whatever that looks like. And We usually wait too long. And we even see that, I see people moving in from, let's say, their home into independent living, husband and wife. Amazingly, just when you see a husband and wife come in together, it's usually like the husband saying, I need to find a place for my wife to be in case something happens to me. And they get in here, and the husband's gone within a year, and the wife is now here. And he did exactly what he should have done, is get her set up to continue on with her life without him. And that many times that's what occurs. And I think that's what people, if I could speak to people in a plain way and say, you're waiting too long, you need to do this sooner, and set your wife up or set your husband up for whatever kind of time they're going to have without that spouse, or that single person still who is not going to make it to the next level of care. They're putting it off too long, and then they have to go to skilled, where there's less restriction. We're still going to do person-centered care there, and we're still going to treat them just like we would have if they were in assisted living or independent living. But their options, their care needs are going to require more help day to day, which is going to require more people coming in that room and then helping them get dressed and, use the restroom and shower and, manage their medication and maybe assist them with feeding and whatever that might be. But it's an honor and a pleasure to do that for all of them. It just becomes an issue of trying to get people to understand what the decisions they need to make now are going to impact them a few months from now.
So basically, those are one of the challenges that in senior care that is not as understood by people outside the industry.
I think that's one of them, at least as it deals with potential residents and their family members.
Can you think of anything else that people should be more aware of?
I think people need to be aware of it, that it's it's very expensive. Senior care is, and so buying those senior care policies are probably a very important thing to do, because it's not cheap to pay for that privately, and a lot of people don't understand the whole payment mechanism. I've done a series of videos on our website, abbyseniorhealth.com, that kind of defines what independent living is, assisted living is, skilled nursing is, and a little bit about how those are paid for. Assisted living really isn't, at least in Missouri for the most part, is not paid for by any insurance company. It's Medicare, Medicaid's not going to pay for that. You're either going to have to pay for private funds or private insurance, long-term care insurance that you've purchased that will help you. So people would have to financially plan for that. And many times, when they enter assisted living, they have to sell that house, and that's their main asset, and that will help to support them. But sometimes if they don't want to do that, or they need to financially plan for that, maybe long-term care insurance would be important. Medicare and Medicaid is only going to pay in the skilled nursing side of things. Medicaid will pay for long-term care, but you have to financially qualify for that. And a lot of people don't understand that. They think Medicare will pay for 100 days of skilled nursing care, but after that, you're going to have to pay for it on your own if you don't have private long-term care insurance. So it's trying to educate people about that, especially with this looming baby boomer population coming along. People don't necessarily think about that. Financial planners need to help people plan for that in their financial planning and estate planning process.
Yeah, speaking with other leaders in the senior care industry, I learned that you really should start when you're in your 50s to start planning for for that type of care.
True.
So can you think of anything else that people should be aware of?
You're talking about the general public being aware of
Yes.
coming in?
Yeah. So families basically of, that have senior adults that are
Yeah.
starting to age.
Yeah. I mean, I think doing your research, and I think the best research, I mean, you can get on, Nursing Home Compare, the Medicare website and look at, the information that's there. That's a resource. That's certainly an option. I think the biggest resource is people and what they tell you about. I think that's our biggest marketing plan is, it's people that have been here and have gone back home because they've been rehab people, and they say, "Oh man, that's a if you need, rehab, that's a place to go," or if you need long-term care, that's the place to go because they've had some experience with it. So word of mouth is a good thing to do. Ask your neighbors and friends and family about what their experiences have been in other places. So I think that's an important a place to go. I mean, you can look at the star rating, and the star ratings are star ratings, we're a 3-star right now, but I feel like we're a 5-star, but, for whatever reason, those numbers don't, and probably because we care for a lot of sick people. And so the numbers don't necessarily show it, but, we just received, an award from, U.S. News and World Report is one of the top nursing homes for 2026. So there's all kinds of things that you can do, I think, but listening to your family and friends and neighbors as to where to go and who do you recommend. It doesn't have to be the Taj Mahal looking spot. Sometimes the fancier places don't provide the best level of care. And so you've got to do your own research and figure that out.
Is marketing kind of a tough area for your community right now, or it's not really hard to fill the rooms?
Well, I mean, I think marketing's always been tough. That's changed over the years. We've gone away from, having these, beautifully printed brochures that, people would have and that we would print up and do, to really putting our money in our website and really trying to have a place where people can go to get the information that they need. Primarily it's, when someone's looking for rehab, it's not the resident that's doing it. It's what we found, it's the adult children are doing it, and primarily it's the oldest daughter who is the person who is that we need to try to communicate with. That oldest daughter in her 50s or 60s. If it's not the oldest daughter, sometimes it's the youngest son. I don't know how that all works. I don't know how all of that happens in family dynamics, and it could be anybody, really. It just depends on who's closest at hand that live still near mom and dad, and help them with that process. But so what we've tried to do is make sure that we've got all of our information at our website. In our case, it's abbeyseniorhealth.com, and making sure we're pouring everything into that we know to pour in. But there's lots of where you can get as little or as much as you want. In terms of information about us and what we do and why we do it and what we believe in and what's important to us in senior care.
So going into a little bit more about your operations, what parts of running your organization still feel more manual or time consuming than they should be?
I think it's probably I would kind of go more to the side of the accounting and billing and collections piece to it. Because we do a lot of rehab, we have to have contracts with, insurance companies like Aetna and Blue Cross Blue Shield and all of, those managed care companies that are out there. And then we have to do all that billing, and then we have to send them all this information and data, and then and then insurance companies sometimes are slow to pay, and you have to follow up with them and do all of that. I think that's one headache that I wish that we didn't have to deal with, and would look for tools to help us in that process. And so, from that perspective, because that affects cash flow, and it affects what we're able to do, and making sure that we're collecting everything for the work that we did. That's important. And so that's a struggle. Continuing, the hiring process. We have a pretty stable staff. We don't have as much turnover as the average nursing home. Part of that, I think, is due to having good managers in place that really care about people. That person-centered care and caring for residents is one thing. That's an aspect of it, but we ought to care for our staff just like we do for our residents, care for them like they're people too, right? Mm-hmm. And have needs and issues and things they have to deal with. And so being understanding of that, but hiring people, getting good quality people, sometimes I feel like we have to hire 10 to get 3 good staff members. And so it takes a lot kind of from that flow of candidates to come through to find the right ones. Not everyone's, some people want to just show up for a paycheck. Others want to come and minister the love of Christ to people. And you got to try to find those good caregivers who want to do the work. And because it's not easy, it's hard work. And we got to treat them well and treat them right and pay them well. And so the hiring, staffing is also a struggle, and most people would tell you that as well.
So, what kind of tasks will normally pull your staff away from your residents more than you'd really like to?
Tasks that pull them away. Well, it could be meetings. We've got to educate staff. We've got to communicate to staff. I think sometimes we can over meeting the place a little bit sometimes. I don't know that there are certain tasks per se that pull them away. It really becomes a matter of having enough staff, the right amount of staff, and then, for us, it becomes a matter of it. It doesn't seem like no matter how many people you have, after meals and the call buttons are ringing to go to the bathroom, you've got lots of people who are demanding all at the same time. And so you got to try to prioritize staff who know how to prioritize the needs of our residents, and listen to them and help them when they need the help that they need. So they probably, our staff members would probably say, "Oh, the residents are the ones that pull me away from residents." And so that's probably true. But I wish, it's not one-on-one care for sure, but we staff over 4 hours per patient per day, in our building nursing staff. And so we really strive to do our best to have, the nursing, to me, that we got to do nursing care right. And if you can't do that in a nursing home, then you're missing the boat. And so that's got to be the first piece. You could always use more staff for activities and, housekeeping and dietary and all those things. But you got to try to figure out the best kind of balance in your building, and then monitor the level of care that's needed in your building. Is even, like I was saying, we have a lot of rehab people, right? So when you have, 30 to 40% of your beds are occupied by very sick people who just came from the hospital, which would be kind of a step down unit in the hospital of 10 years ago. You've got to make sure that you're not overtasking your staff either, by balancing out the level of care and the kind of the combination of residents and the comorbidities they have, within the building, and making sure that you're not bringing in too sick of people, but you're also people that you can care for, I guess is what I'm trying to say. You've got to be able to care for, make sure that you're bringing in people you can care for. And it might be that, people with, trachs or, ventilators and those kinds of things, they may need to go to another place that is more suited and the skill set's more suited for them. So you kind of figure out what your niche is. Part of our niche, if you will, is, really strong nursing home care, and great physical therapy, speech therapy, occupational therapy. We also add in respiratory therapy. Most facilities don't do that. And then, really great nurses who are very personable and friendly and caring. And then you add on to that our Catholic and Christian aspect, we offer mass every day, and Protestant services monthly. And so it becomes an issue of, we may not be the right spot for everyone, but, we try to meet those needs. And then there's other great providers in our area. If we're not the choice, we recommend those as well.
Where would you say has technology helped your team, or if anything has created more work instead of less?
I would say that, we utilize a nursing home management system, and we utilize one called Point-Click Care, which is fairly popular within facilities, and it does a lot of great things, and it kind of integrates all the information so that, nursing knows about residents and can do all of their documentation and on there, and as well as social services and activities and dietary and everyone, and billing and accounting. Everyone can access the same information. That's great. Love that. We've had those for quite some time, and those keep getting better, and they keep improving those systems. And so also having things like iPads and phones that interact with that system so that those can be done, and staff then have access to their schedules, and we can communicate with staff via text messages and those kinds of things as well. All of that's improved communication. I think that maybe on the downside of that is that, you tend to be a little bit more push a button that best describes a situation about a resident or a patient, instead of an individualized personal note about what's going on. And so we sometimes struggle in saying, are we documenting well enough the things that we need to document? We are, but, it just becomes an issue of if it doesn't match one of the bullet points that you can choose from, are we then taking the time to write in a note that's necessary? And sometimes CNAs or CMTs they feel like they're rushed and they're busy. And so sometimes they choose a button that doesn't necessarily always work right. It doesn't always match the patient or the resident. And so I think those are just some of the challenges that come with technology, but it's sometimes less personalized, I guess, is where I'm headed with that.
Mm-hmm. How about communication with the residents' families? Is that something?
Yeah, that's improved, and we can, and I think a lot of that came out of COVID, right? It was we looked for ways to try to communicate with people, and not only drive them to our website, but then also provide updates and information that we would send out, via people's smartphones. So yeah, we have that list and that capability to be able to kind of send out an email blast or a text blast to residents and family members, and even staff, so that everybody can can be on the same page about, something that's happening or coming up or transpiring or something that we need to be careful of, or, if there's a flu break up in the building or something like that, that's a good way to communicate with people.
And then how about communication between the residents and their families?
Yeah, I think, obviously we see them utilizing things like FaceTime and Facebook, and, I see residents sitting and scrolling just like I see my grandkids sitting and scrolling. So it's there, and that information's available. We probably, we hardly have any rooms that have phones in them. Residents all bring their own phones these days. And so we have quite a variety of different chargers, so that we can, for those that forget their chargers. But it's great for residents to be able to communicate with family and to do a FaceTime call and see them and see how they're doing.
Yeah, it's modern aging, right?
Right. We've had a few residents, families that have chosen to have cameras in the room present. When those were approved, we had some of those that jumped on that bandwagon, especially during the COVID time frame, which, we were, very open to. And so, that's certainly an option and a possibility for some as well. So
I see.
that's there. Mm-hmm.
So if you could remove one recurring operational frustration for your staff tomorrow, what would it be?
I think, the first thing would just be, all the right staff and all the right places. That's the real key for me, is finding the right people and making sure that we could remove that. We could just do our job instead of having to find people to help do our job. I think that would be great. So staffing and finding good people. I think for me, it's that issue of help with the building and the collections side of it. And then, the other thing is just making sure that we have people who care, and really care about the residents. And so we've been so fortunate here at Abbey Senior Health to really have a great team, a dynamic team of people who do care, but that takes time to develop and to get the right people in place. And it requires good managers who treat people right and, do the staff needs, and making sure they're trained right. And so there's lots of variables. But I think that the biggest headache we probably deal with is just making sure that we have the right staff and the right people in place.
Yeah. So what does success look like for you with Abbey over the next 3 to 5 years beyond census or occupancy?
Yeah, I don't measure it necessarily by census or occupancy, although that's a measure because we've got to succeed financially, right? So that we can keep the mission going, right? No money, no mission. That's still the real thing, right? In this business today. So we've got to be able to do that. I don't know that I have a particular thing that I could say that, I would peg that on in the next 3 to 5 years. I would say that it's the response from the residents and the family members that said, "My goodness, you guys do such a great job. And so we're so thankful for you, and we're thankful for this place." That's how I know we're doing a good job. That's how I know. I mean, it's the reinforcement from the people we're delivering the services to, and that they come back again, and that they refer other people to us again. And so that's what success looks like. And because of that, then your census is good, right? And all of those things kind of work together. But, it's really just continuing to do a good job for people, and it's not a financial thing. It's not an award thing. I'm happy that U.S. News and World Report, put us at, one of the best nursing homes for 2026, but that's not why I do this. Mm-hmm. It's for the people, and knowing that's what, we're able to help and do what's necessary. And, you see people in crisis when this stuff happens. There's a problem with mom or dad or grandma, grandpa, however you are in that care spectrum. And it's just like, we don't know what to do. Well, you bring them here and we start to sort it out for them and help them to work through it. And you see the impact that you have, the positive impact you have. It's like needing help, and you've got someone who comes alongside and helps you. That's what success looks like to me. And so I think it's just people saying, well done. You've done a good job. Keep it up. I think that's really the key. It's not something that says, well, I'm trying to improve my balance sheet so I can sell this place and make millions of dollars. That's not it for me. I probably should concentrate more on that, but it's really more about doing the right thing and taking care of people in the right way.
Well, one of the market trends that I've noticed, across different states is that there's typically not enough communities for, as the growing size of adults that are needing to retire and needing to find places to be in. Do you think that growth is in the picture for Abbey? Like expanding and building?
Growth is certainly is a possibility and an option. And we've done that already here in the last 8 to 10 years. I think it's continuing to refine the things that we have and do those well. It could be, acquiring some adjacent property and adding some villa homes, those kinds of things. I could see that as something that would be beneficial for our community. You're right. We don't have enough facilities. The wave is really going to kind of peak in that 2030 to 2035 range. And from what I'm understanding, it'll level off, but there'll still be a demand until, 2050. And so there's still going to continue to be a strong need and demand for, the types of facilities. And I don't know that AI robots are going to come in and take over and make this place, solve my staffing problem. I don't think that's going to be there. We might have some capabilities that could be benefit us from AI, some intuitive things that would help us to know that a resident's about to get up or moving around in their room when they might be a potential fall risk, things that could help make us more aware that there's a care issue that needs to be attended to, something that continually monitors their vital signs and some of those kinds of things that would help us know that there's a potential problem happening. I think there is room for that, but I still think we're going to need people who are going to be caring for people. And so we may continue to enhance that ability as time goes on, and do what we can do from an AI perspective to make sure that those people know how to best care for someone. And so that's where I see maybe some of the technology leading us in the future. But
yeah, well, hopefully, definitely not robots by the time I retire.
Yeah, maybe they can buff the floors or something.
Yeah, there you go.
Yeah.
Some of the mundane tasks that unfortunately we have to do.
Yeah.
So, okay. So what advice would you give to leaders entering the senior care today who want to build sustainable, people-centered organizations?
Well, I think that you've got to have an understanding of who you are in the industry and what your gifts and talents and abilities are, and then find people around you who can help complement some of your weaknesses, right? So I think it's about building a team of people, managers who, you got to have a great director of nursing. You've got to have really strong accounting people. You've got to have really good people who can watch costs and things associated with dining services and housekeeping services and maintenance services and all those things. You've got to really build a good team of people around you who know what they're doing, and so that you can even step away and it runs well without you. I think that's a key. And those people are not always easy to find. And sometimes it takes a lot of time in the industry to find the right people and get those people on your team. But I think that's a real key. You still have to have a good team of people. And if you don't love people, if you don't love seniors, then you're missing the boat, because that's what it's about. It's about making sure you're taking good care of people. And so, it's not a way to get rich. It's not but it's not a way to, it's a way to earn a nice living. But you could probably make more money in other industries, but you're going to have a hard time finding something that will give you more satisfaction than what we do or what I do on a daily basis. And, I came out of a ministry background to do this. And to me, I'm doing ministry every day. And I feel like, I'm serving God every day by serving people. And so that's really what it's about, to me, kind of finding what your calling is and do it. And understand then that, you may need people around you that, compensate your weaknesses, and get those people in place, and then build a team to make it happen.
Do you feel that number is dwindling? Like the number of people that want to work in the senior care industry?
It could be dwindling. I don't know that I feel that way. I think we still have access to good people, and there was times where during COVID, and people were paid to stay at home. That was a frustrating era. My goodness, I don't ever want to go through that again. But it's not an industry that a lot of people want to be in per se, and because it is hard work, and it's not only hard work, but it's emotional work. But it's great work at the same time. It can be emotionally draining, but very emotionally fulfilling all at the same time. You have good days and bad days. It's like any job, but, I don't know that the numbers are, I think certain types of, we're all competing, if it seems like, for the same pool of nursing staff, it seems like. So when other facilities are built around us, I mean, it becomes an issue of, my first question is, how are they going to staff it? Because we're all competing for the same people, and none of us have all of the people we want. So it becomes an issue of, we're going to need to I think we need a focus on more nursing staff, if anything, in trying to get more people encouraged. Because like I said, the AI robots are not going to take over for caring for people. So we still need caregivers, people who are emotionally and with God-given gifts to do that kind of work. And that's the kind of people you need to look for and find. And that pool of those people could be expanded. Yeah.
Yeah. No, I mean, this is actually part of why I started this journey. Is I feel like the senior care industry gets forgotten sometimes.
Sure.
And to me, it hurts sometimes to hear, stories when seniors are not taken care of, or they get left behind at home, and
Yeah.
the solitude of that is just disheartening.
Yeah.
And to me, what I care about as far as with the senior citizens is making their life be at best, just before they leave the world.
Right.
And
Yeah.
to me, that would negate anything negative about losing someone. But if I know that just before we lose them, if they're happy, then, that's great. That would make me
Right.
happy.
That they were well cared for, right?
Exactly.
Yeah. 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 It's a great honor to care for people at the very end stages of their life and helping them transition from this world to the next.
Yeah.
What greater privilege can someone have than to be able to do that?
Exactly. And have them be feeling happy when they do, right?
Absolutely. Yeah.
Yeah.
Feeling happy and like a human being, and laugh and joke and enjoy their life. Yeah, that's what it's all about.
Yeah, the life that they deserve by the end of their journey.
Yeah,
because you never know what they've contributed as adults, right? So
right, that's right.
So last thing basically is, what gives you the most hope about the future of aging in senior care?
It gives me the most hope. I think there's a tide that shifted kind of with this last bunch of people that are now entering and caring for what, the end of the baby boomers is kind of like, it's 1946 to 1964, right? So I was born in 1960. I'm kind of at the tail end of that. And I think that it's the people and the family members who are in charge of kind of placing people into long-term care and helping them make that decision, helping them make that transition. Family members that are doing that are really, I'm seeing a real higher level of family involvement and stepping up to the table and helping mom and dad or grandma and grandpa to make those decisions and to find a good place and to do their research and then get involved. And they come and they visit, they volunteer and participate in the activities and things that we're doing here. To me, it's the families that we're dealing with. They're the ones that I think that gives me hope that there's good people out there who want to do the right thing. That's one thing. It's also my faith that gives me hope, because if we're I think we were, one of my favorite verses is Ephesians 2:10, which says, "We were created in Christ Jesus to do good works that God prepared in advance for us to do." That means he had a plan for us and a plan for an individual to come and do and be on this earth, a human being gifted to do certain things. And I feel like there's more people coming into play that are understanding that about their role in the world, and I see people taking on that responsibility to do what God is, I think, placed in their heart to do, to follow their calling, and so that gives me hope, right? Because that we have no greater hope than to know that we have someone that's going to walk through this life with us, and then will help us and then enable us to do things that benefit the people we're around. And so those are some of the things I see with the people that I come in contact with every day, and not just my age, but the next generation coming behind me. And my son is our assistant administrator here, and has jumped in and become, has felt the call to do this. He would, out of all my sons. I have 3 sons. He's the last one I would have thought would have been interested in doing the work that I do. And, but, a few years ago kind of came to a crossroads and made the decision to do this. Boy, I'm excited about what, the next generation is going to come up and do behind us. I think they're going to be phenomenal.
That's great. That's really great. Well, I thank you so much for your time, Chris. I know it's taken more than 30 minutes, but
That's all right.
Thank you very much for all your insights.
Yeah.
Really appreciate it. And hopefully our audience can pick up some
Good.
things about that.
I hope this is useful for someone, for you. It's so great.
Yes.
I appreciate that.
So, yeah, thank you so much.
Thanks for listening to Care Forward Innovations. We hope today's episode inspired you to help shape the future of senior care. Follow us for more episodes featuring best practices, lessons learned, and practical solutions from industry leaders. Let's keep moving care forward.